Everyone, welcome to On the Move, a brand new podcast here at Fellowship Greenville, episode 1.
Yes.
Man, I am excited. We have in the room today, giving that booming yes, Jason Malone with us, Directional Pastor. Glad to have you here today.
JL, I'm so excited to be able to come hang out and be a part of the inaugural On the Move podcast.
It's going to be exciting.
It is going to be exciting.
So really setting the tone of what this thing is going to be like.
Yeah, 100%.
You'll build the plane while it's flying.
There's people listening right now already wondering, what is this about?
And they're probably asking, are these guys professional podcasters? And the answer would be,
Yes.
no, not at all in the slightest.
Have you ever been on a podcast?
I have been on a podcast.
Yeah, and I've been on a podcast. And I think that makes both of us somewhat professional podcast.
I will add it to the resume. We measure this immediately.
I would like that Directional Pastor /podcast.
I'm going to update my LinkedIn right now. I'm the Mental Loose podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, we're excited. I know this has been something that, honestly, you and I both kind of been kicking around for a while.
Yeah.
Over some pad thai, some good local cuisine.
Yes.
I think that was the first time it was ever mentioned to me.
Yes. Well, for the record, you were having the pad thai. That's not really my scene. Like, I'm not gonna.
You're above the pad thai.
Well, it's just it doesn't agree with my palate, and so I choose some other things when I enter into a Thai restaurant. But what you had, it smelled good. It's good. But it's a philosophy. It is a philosophy. Yeah. I think the point you were wanting to make before I so rudely interrupted was what we're doing here today really came about as we had a meal together.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. My apologies.
So eloquently said. That's how I had to type it out in my notes. So yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, well, we're sitting there, we're talking, we're dreaming, and here we are today launching a podcast for our summer series of Hebrews.
Yes.
But really, I think this is a little bit different of a take of a podcast because from what we discussed, it felt like it actually had a pretty narrow vision on application. So talk to me a little bit about that and just what does it mean to take what happens on Sunday and bring it into Monday from your point of view and from our kind of hopes of how this challenges people moving forward?
Yeah, well, I hope it wouldn't surprise anyone when I say that I absolutely loved Sunday. Like, I love the opportunity to come together and worship through the studying of the Word and through music and through serving one another. Like, I'm all about it. But as a pastor, one of the things I'm regularly thinking about, and not only thinking about, I'm also praying about, is how are all of us taking what it is that we're studying and processing on a Sunday and actually applying it to our lives. Sunday, as great as it is never like the end game. I've always talked about it this way. Sunday is a time to come together and celebrate what God has been doing in our life and through our life over the last 7 days. And we'll see you next Sunday, and we'll celebrate again and remember and continue to teach the Word. And so really do care deeply about how all of us are taking what is being taught and actually applying it 24/7 as our stories of grace, intersect everywhere the Lord wants them to intersect in His kindness and sovereignty. So yeah, it really is I believe this podcast gives us an opportunity to drive home application points a little bit more, to unpack them a little bit more than maybe we're able to even do on a Sunday morning, or at least expound upon them.
Yeah, I think really just from the practical standpoint, I think Sunday sermons don't come without application able comments that are made. But I think the richness of a podcast like this, we're actually going to sit down and unpack that, maybe even like socially and a little bit more just in your sphere of who you are, of where you go, what you do, who you interact with. That's exactly. I think it's going to be able to get a little bit more specific in that application than some of the stuff that we can do in 30-minute messages or 50-minute messages. Wonder average.
Well, we all have a little bit of a different average in regards to how long we teach, and I don't want to throw Charlie under the bus here in the first podcast for how long-winded he is. So I won't do that. Everyone's chuckling, I hope, in their cars right now.
That's debatable. Everyone who gets on stage. That's how we're working debate. Yeah. Because I like just the transparency of a podcast like this, something I look forward to, because I'm one who sits in this services as well with my Bible, making notes, and some of the, not guilt, but you forget things sometimes, or truly forget what was said if you don't go back to those notes, go back to it. And so hoping that this podcast can also be something that goes with you in a week that matches your schedule of travel. With the name On the Move, we're hoping for two things, really, that this can be something that you take with you on the move, whether you're going for a jog or the average commute in Greenville, South Carolina, which is, do you know that off the top of your head?
It's 23 minutes, and the reason I know it is because I checked with my good friend Chat, and Chat told me. I was just like, I wasn't really interested in like a super long podcast. And people, probably think different times are long in regards to podcasts. But I was like, what's the average commute around the upstate of South Carolina is 23 minutes. So if you're jumping in your car and headed somewhere, by the time you get there, you have been able to listen to
Just challenged deeply on my move. Only that's exactly right.
Yeah, so not only can you listen to this on the move while you're moving, but also really, I mean, the heart behind it is that we as believers of Christ are getting on the move and not just sitting there taking and making Sunday mornings a spectator sport, but that's exactly right, the application. So talk to me a little bit about like, I think that some people, a lot of times when churches do podcasts like this, it's like, is this just a sermon recap? Is this a sermon unpacking? Like, so how is this different than maybe listening to a sermon that they're going to probably internalize sitting on the other side of this podcast?
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is when it comes to preparing a sermon, I think a lot of people go, man, how do you guys come up with, 45 minutes worth of something to say? But actually, it's not coming up with that much to say. It's actually figuring out what are you not going to say a lot of times. And so stuff's always kind of left on the cutting room floor, if you will, in regards to what you have been studying, and even a lot of the application pieces, because you can't cover it all. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously we would sit down and talk a little bit about what was covered the Sunday before. But yeah, I would love for this to be even more unpacking of what the application could look like. Not a recap of the message itself. But even, we talk a lot around here about life in the triangle, right? Like with Jesus, life in community and life on mission. And I think that can be a piece of the application that we continue to drive home with whatever we're talking about based off of what was talked about the Sunday before. Really, and even looking into this coming summer, we're going to be in Hebrews 11 talking about faith. I'm really excited to be able to go through this series, and a lot of our team will be teaching throughout the course of the summer. And so to be able to come in and unpack that more, I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love like even just the thought of just the practical side of it, because I do, when you mentioned the triangle and thinking through like my life on mission and community with Jesus, like those are three things that I think even if you just said those three things to somebody and it just said, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing with those?
That's right.
That's probably challenging enough for the majority of people even listening to say like, well, I could probably ping pretty quick.
Sure.
An area of weakness of those three. And so I think I will personally enjoy hearing from the pastors who are preparing sermons of just thinking through those three categories and kind of pinpointing some weaknesses in my own relationship and walk with the Lord to work through that. So I think that'll be a neat piece to pull in kind of our mission and heart as a church and look through those lenses.
Yeah.
And so what do you, I mean, I know you've been a part of a fellowship for a long time, in and back, and there's tons of ways of relationships between all of that. Like if you were just give a little bit of like an audit on fellowship right now, this is a vulnerable question. Sure. I'm really going to put you.
Yes. Episode 1, vulnerability.
Let's go right into it.
Let's do it.
I mean, what do you think prevents the majority of people, or even those who struggle to like, you hear things on a Sunday and to actually apply them and to change your behavior and your direction based on what you heard? Like, what's the big preventer or common thing you've seen as a pastor that is just the block between now taking it and actually applying it to who you are in the rest of your week?
What a vulnerable question.
Yeah, very vulnerable.
Looking for a vulnerable answer. But unfortunately, that's our time, kids. That's 23 minutes. We'll see it. Let's move, everybody. No, it's a really great question. I think it's noise. I think it is the noise of life. I think people here at FG really do enjoy coming together on Sunday morning and worshiping and serving one another. There is in my opinion, and I don't believe I'm saying this just because I'm one of the pastors here, there is a palpable joy, good word, in this place that I am incredibly, incredibly thankful for. But also, this is the same for all of us, when you leave here on a Sunday morning, we're going in 1,000 different directions, and the world and the noise of the world is humming. And if we're not intentional about what we're contemplating and thinking about and meditating upon, I mean, it really is. It's the reason the top of the triangle is life with Jesus. Like that's the top on purpose, right? Our own intimacy with God, we would say, is our highest priority. We desire that for ourselves, for those we shepherd and lead here. And so I think it's creating space to be able to continue to contemplate what it is the Spirit of God said through the Word of God in the midst of the people of God on a Sunday morning. Like that really is what I desire. And I just think the world we live in competes against that and pushes on that. You know, when we were growing up, I say we like we're the same age. I would assume maybe I'm a little bit older than you.
I appreciate that. That's like because I'm so wise and appearing, because that's what it is. It was the same level.
100%. You know, when we were growing up, there were, this is a slight exaggeration, evangelistically speaking, 87 messages and sermons a week. I mean, we were always together. You were doing a Wednesday night thing, you're doing a Sunday morning thing, you're doing a Sunday night thing. And the older I got, the more I was thinking, how do people have an opportunity to like contemplate 87 different things or whatever the case may be? And so I do love that we still gather in other environments throughout the week. But I really do love that we have a focal point of, hey, this is the passage we're all studying together. So people are getting together and discussing and talking about on some level within the context of their community groups. And so I think the challenge is just the busyness and the noise of life. And we're a hurried people, and in creating space to continue to meditate upon what it is that the Spirit said, maybe in a Sunday morning, maybe in the morning in your own quiet time, even the same sort of thing. Like when I think of even doing a podcast like this, I think of what is redeemable, like with all the noise that's out there, what is redeemable in the social media podcast world. And I've always said to our team here, especially our comms team, super thankful for all of you. I see our role is to intentionally invade the consciousness of our people with gospel truth throughout the course of a week. So if you're hitting our Instagram feed or our Facebook feed or listening to a podcast, that's really what I see and desire, you know, for this to be, because of the hustle and the bustle and on the go and all of those sorts of things. And so I don't know if I'm really getting to answer your question. I do think that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Like, are we slowing down and listening, meditating? Even coming up here to shoot this podcast, someone stopped me in the hallway and they said, hey, I'm still mulling on what you talked about on Sunday. I was like, so I said, tell me more. Like, what are you mulling on? And they shared a little bit, but my point in that is just like, that's a part of this podcast. Can we continue to mull upon what it is maybe the Spirit of God impressed upon us as we were studying the Word on a Sunday morning, or talking about it within the context of our community group or with our men's group or women's group or whatever the case.
I love that. I mean, 'cause I feel like it is really like a little bit of a quantity and quality, but it's just like, are you as a listener, as someone who's part of our church, even just putting yourself in places to be challenged by the Spirit? And so that's right. I'm hoping that that's one thing that this podcast does become. It's just another opportunity to look inward and to hear what the Lord might be saying to you, and to unpack a thought that you didn't even quite realize sunk in, but might come back a little bit later in a different challenge. Because I think I've seen in my life change, Christ living, when I started to become a little bit more aware of, I was just turning off a switch in my brain when I walked off a church campus.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was doing it, because now when it's my time to run to a restaurant or go grocery shopping, or like, I just need to drop this package off at UPS, like, my brain was not thinking, am I aware of the conversations I'm about to have? And am I even on the lookout for, if that's an opening that would open a conversation with somebody? In my life, I have some of the coolest examples and stories of when Christ using me just became so ordinary and so everyday. That's right. It was just wild, the fruit that came from,
because the gospel goes in you. The gospel goes everywhere that God wants the gospel to go, because it goes in his people, and his people are on the move. And it is the brilliant design of the church, and how God, ordained and orchestrated the whole thing. And so, yeah, like, this isn't just we're on the move, here's our podcast. The reality is You're on the move. You are going as a follower of Jesus. You are going in all the places that you're going, into the everydayness of your life. The fact of the matter is, the life-transforming message of the gospel is going in you. So the question for us to consider is the gospel accessible in and through my life? And what I'm praying and hoping with this podcast is it'll just be another piece of invading the consciousness of our people to live with gospel intentionality, applying what the Spirit of God is saying through the Word of God to the everydayness of their lives.
Okay, well said. Well, I'm excited to hear from more people like you, other players on our team. We're going to get to hear from just some staff from the worship team, from student team this summer as we unpack Hebrews, and just really look at how do we hear what God is saying from the Word, how do we internalize it, and how do we get on the move. So, episode coming out every week. Hopefully it comes out at the same time, but you never quite know. And
on all your podcast platforms, whatever those are. Am I getting ahead of myself? Are there platforms for podcasts?
there's probably lots.
Okay, yeah. Wherever podcasts are found,
You will find us.
on the move.
Theological Greenville. Every single one. We'll make sure that that's clear. So, some people email me, they could say, you said every single one. So, well, thanks, Jason, for being here today. We're excited about On the Move, and hopefully it'll be a podcast that continues to challenge and bless people.
Yeah, if you're driving out there today, God bless you. Keep it on the steering wheel, 10 and 2. And we'll see you again real soon.